Just another brother with another humble question. Just another brother with another humble question.
Welcome to another episode of A Brother with Questions. I am your host, B. Man, I appreciate you for joining me. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for me. Share it with your friends. Man, we're trying to grow this thing, make it bigger, make it lovely, make the party even bigger. So let's dive in tonight, man. I'm excited. I am excited about tonight's topic, man. So there is a young man. His name is Delano Squires, and he recently wrote what he called a special report. And let me get your title. Read this title for you. The title says, Moving Beyond Moynihan, a New Blueprint to Revive Marriage and Rebuild the Black Community. I'll say that one more time. Moving Beyond Moynihan, a New Blueprint to Revive Marriage and Rebuild the Black Family. So Delano is a research fellow at the Heritage Foundation. And so he wrote this special report to talk about how to rebuild the Black family. I'm going to read you the summary real quick. And so the summary says, this special report revisits the 1965 Moynihan Report on the state of the Black family. The call to action in this new report is clear. Black leaders in religion, politics, media, entertainment, education, culture, and industry must be at the forefront of any effort to revive marriage and breathe new life into the Black community. Young people in far too many neighborhoods today have no reason to believe that marriage should come before children because no one in their lives, whether relatives or religious leaders, have communicated that message. That can change, but only with a recommitment to the marriage culture and family structure that was the norm in previous generations. And so I start with tonight's question. Tonight's question is, can the Black family save Black America? I'm going to say that one more time. Can the Black family save Black America? And so the Moynihan Report, for anybody that is not familiar with that, before we go on, let's just give you a brief synopsis of that as well. And so the Moynihan Report, as it's called today, then it was called the Negro Family, the Case for National Action. And so this was written by Robert Moynihan. Robert Moynihan worked in the government in 1965. I forget what secretary he was, but he was one of the secretaries of state of some kind at the time. But what he says is the report, it's a 1965 government study that analyzed the Black family's socioeconomic challenges by highlighting the high rates of female-headed households, which it describes as a tangle of pathology and a barrier to racial equality. The report argued that the breakdown of the Black family structure, a legacy of slavery and systemic discrimination, was perpetuating poverty, unemployment, and juvenile delinquency. At the time, it says it sparked controversy by being perceived as blaming the Black community for its own problems, rather than solely focusing on societal barriers. And so in this article that Delano wrote, he is revisiting some of the themes of that and updating it to talk about it from today's perspective. But the reason why I love this report is because it piggybacks on conversations that I've been having for a minute with my friends and people I talk to, which is, to me, the reason why Black America is in the state it is today can be solved by fixing the marriage problem. And so what I mean by that is our rate of marriage is so low that it has enhanced single parent homes, I should say, which is ultimately bringing down financially the possibilities that we possess. And so we're going to look at some of his statistics. I can't say that word. From his article here. So it says in one statistic he states, it says, while the Moynihan Report was criticized by civil rights leaders and feminist activists after it was published, the issues he raised have only grown worse. In 1965, about 25% of black children were born to unmarried parents. Today, 70% are born out of wedlock. 70% are born out of wedlock. And then there's another stat that he quotes that at least 50% of that is actually raised by a single parent. And so before I offend anybody, because it's not my intent to offend, I'm not saying single parents can't successfully raise children. Obviously, a single parent can successfully raise a child. That's not the point here. The point here that I'm making is that as a family unit, right? And so for me, a family unit is a married man and woman, preferably raising the children that they have between them. I know today, I myself am a part of a blended family, so I know a lot of families today are blended. And so even if you're blended, family unit, mother, father, live in the home together, mother, father, both working, because in this economy today, if two people ain't working, that's a struggle too. So two people working and forging a path together, I believe you're going to see better outcomes, not only with the children, but better outcomes financially as a couple. Because whatever you're doing is now, and when you consider the average black man, average black woman makes about $50,000. You do that by yourself, you're only at 50. You do that together, you're already at 100. And you can do way more in today's society on $100,000 than you can do at 50. So again, we're going to keep going. Let's look at some more of these stats. Here's another one. I love this stat right here. Disparities in marriage rates are a major factor in economic and social outcomes today. Among adults, 62% of Asians, 53% of whites, 47% of Hispanics, and 35% of blacks are married. Asians at the highest. It ain't white people. Asians are the highest, 27% higher than blacks. And then let's look at outcomes. Median household income following the same pattern as national marriage rates. Asians, $121,700. Whites, $92,530. Hispanics, $70,950. Blacks, $56,020. So the average black family, income-wise, household income, is slightly above the average individual income. Now, I think there's a combination of reasons why that's the case. Education, I think, being at the top of it. And when I say education, understand I'm not necessarily focused on college. Education for me is also trade school. And so one of the failures I think we see in the black communities is for our kids who don't go to college. And I'm not saying they all need to go to college. I think everybody that can should, as long as you're going into a STEM degree. Let's say that. Everybody that can should. But if you're not going to go, at least go to a trade school. I mean, the average trade is going to make on the low end $50,000 minimum. So at least go to trade school. And some of those trades can make upwards of $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 just by doing the right trade. These kinds of, when I say education, that's what I'm talking about. And so you look at Asians being at the highest at 121. You got to remember, a lot of those Asian families are parents came over maybe as late adults and then had their children and raised their children in America. And I bet you a lot of them forced their kids to go to college. It wasn't even an option. And so when I think about black families, one of the challenges I think we face, because sometimes we're single parent homes and that you don't always have the support of that partner that is that you had the baby with, is our kids don't necessarily think having an education is as important. But if you have that partner walking lockstep, I think it makes a big difference. I think it makes a huge difference. Even if, worst case scenario, you got to do this thing by yourself, but you got a partner that's rocked there with you. You got a mom, maybe you're a single father, but the mom is very active and present in the life, or you're a single mother, but the dad is very active and present in the life. I mean, that's going to help too, but you got to be lockstep. And sometimes if you're not married, being lockstep can present some challenges. But let's keep going with some of these other stats that I saw in the article. And like I said, I'm going to link this article as well in the summary. So if you want to go read it, it's really good. At least I thought it was. It was really good. So definitely go check it out. Here's another one. Living arrangements of black children from 1960 to 2023. And so in the article, he has a line graph that looks at single mothers versus two parents. And what we're seeing in the article is the single mothers, that line graph is increasing since 1960. And the line graph of married people is decreasing since 1960. And again, that follows the concept of income. Here's another stat. The median income for a black married couple is $110,900. I'm gonna let that sit right there, because if you remember, the average income, the median income for a black married couple is $110,000. The median income from a Asian couple was $121. So when we're married, I'm just saying, it makes a big difference, man. It makes a big difference when you're talking about income, marriage. It makes a big difference. And so when I think about some of the challenges here, I think the biggest challenge is what we deem culture today, because today's culture celebrates the single parent. And I only say that because, well, let me go back. Today's culture celebrates promiscuity. It celebrates drug culture, and it celebrates your individual, your ability, I should say, to be you, whatever that means. And that, to me, again, goes counter against what marriage represents. Because in marriage is not about you. Marriage is about we. And then marriage is about the sacrifice that you make so that the we can thrive, which is counter to today's culture, because it forces you to take a step back to be able to respect another person and what they like, what they're doing, what their dreams are, as opposed to solely focusing on you. And it's perpetuated in everything we do in American in black culture today. When you think about our music celebrates this idea of the individual. It celebrates the idea of the woman being able to do whatever she wants. It celebrates the idea of the man being promiscuous. It celebrates the idea, again, of drugs. And so all of that goes counter to marriage. And so because you don't hear it in your music, because your music is telling you to go be free, you got a lot of people being raised by single moms and single dads. So you're coming from an environment where you don't know a marriage. Some of us live in a life where we've never even seen a successful marriage before. And so when the culture is counter to you, it doesn't become natural to want to be married. But the solution is always marriage. Because when you learn how to sacrifice for yourself, or for the we, let me say it that way. When you learn how to sacrifice for the we, Then you understand the sacrifices that you need to make in order to make sure your children are successful. And then when you're building this, understanding that we're in this together forever, there's just a different sense in the way you move, I believe, long term, that produces better outcomes in the community. Financially, you're going to better be able to qualify for a house. Just get your credit together. Income-wise, if both of y'all are working, you should be all right. If both of y'all decide to get some kind of education, you should be all right. Again, education is not college. Education could be trade school. It's just get educated in some way, shape, or form so that you qualify to make more than the minimum wage. I believe if we do this, if we can change culture to focus on marriage as the solution of Black America, it ain't going to happen overnight. It's probably going to take us 50 years. But that change alone, I think, will end a lot of these conversations that we seem to focus on today. It'll change what you think about racism because financially you're doing all right. Financially, you can afford to do things that you're trying to do so that no blockages can get in your way. Financially, you're going to be able to overcome whatever you think is being done in white supremacy because you can afford to do whatever it is you're trying to do. Because financially, you're more secure now, which piggybacks on some of the solutions he talks about in his article. And I'll just mention a couple, and then I'm going to get out of here. But one of the things he says reframe family strengthening measures to focus on the rights of children. He says family restoration should be seen as an important civil rights issue driven by two truths. The first is that all children have a right to the affection and protection of a man and a woman who created them. The second is that the ideal environment for this right to be exercised is in a loving and stable home with a married father and mother. He talks about harnessing the power of our institutions to create a culture of marriage. Black churches, HBCUs, media outlets, federal, state, and local government all have a role to play in encouraging men and women to marry before children, as well as discouraging adults from ignoring the ideal sequence for forming a family. So if we can all get on the same page, if we can transition these conversations that we're having about racism, supremacy, yada, 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 and just get the family right, it'll change the culture. How do I know? Talk to everybody who's in a successful marriage and ask them if they don't feel better about what they're doing because they're in a loving relationship, and get back to me. But challenge me if you will. Challenge me if you won't. Let's have this conversation. Hit me up. Hit me up in the comments. DM me. You can find me on TikTok. Everything says A Brother with Questions. And let's see. Let's have a conversation together. Because I truly believe, save Black America, we need the Black family. And on that note, I'm B. Period. And I'm out.